In the midst of homecoming week and all of the different activities that are going on, we wanted to bring all of you together to provide you with some information and make some introductions on behalf of the Greenville Area School District Educational Foundation. The foundation's overall mission is to develop, promote, and fund educational programs, activities, and projects for the Greenville Area School District. The foundation has taken the steps to form 2 halls of fame. An athletic hall of fame, if you happen to attend this year's first home football game versus Sharpsville, you would have seen the 5th class of inductees being honored on the field during pregame activities. The foundation has also worked to establish a distinguished hall of fame, which is why we are all assembled here this afternoon. The establishment of the Distinguished Hall of Fame is important for primarily 2 reasons. First, and most directly, we aim to recognize individuals for their outstanding achievements. Secondly, we want to provide an opportunity for all of you, our current students, to become more aware of the individuals that once sat in your seats and what they have done to make themselves so successful. The class of Distinguished Hall of Fame members that are seated on the stage, and who I will introduce to all of you in just a few moments, share one important thing in common. They all found a passion for doing something that not only made them successful, but also provided them with the opportunity to make a positive influence on those around them. Prior to making these introductions, I wanted to recognize a special group of people. With us this afternoon are approximately 25 members of the GHS class of 1959. While we always look forward to welcoming alumni back to GHS, this group is extra special as they were the first group of students to graduate from what we all know now as Greenville High School in 1959. And I would ask all the members of the class that are with us to please stand and be recognized. It's now my pleasure to introduce all of you to the Greenville Area School District Educational Foundation's Distinguished Hall of Fame class of 2024. Our first inductee is Mr. Asher Bray. Mr. Bray is a 2003 graduate of Greenville High School who earned a degree in 2007 from Carroll College in Helena, Montana, before enrolling at Thiel College to learn French in preparation for joining the Peace Corps. In college, he was awarded the Hunthazen Outstanding Collegiate Citizenship Award for work that included serving with Engineers Without Borders in community work with the Blackfoot Indian Reservation and volunteering with a local youth group taking high school aged boys rock climbing and camping. In 2008, Mr. Bray's work with the Peace Corps sent him to Uganda, where he worked as a water and sanitation engineer and was instrumental in providing these vital resources throughout the region. During the global pandemic, Mr. Bray joined Samaritan's Purse, setting up an emergency field hospital in Cremona, Italy, where the town ultimately gave him honorary citizenship for his work in building water and sanitary infrastructure for that hospital. His humanitarian work led him to be a deacon at Crosspoint Community Church in Boone, North Carolina, where he currently resides with his family. Mr. Asher Bray. Our next inductee is Mr. Tim Hoffman. Mr. Hoffman attended both elementary and junior high in the Greenville Area School District, but ultimately graduated from high school in Marietta, Georgia in 1992. In some ways, the Greenville area has gotten reacquainted with Mr. Hoffman through his work as a producer in the 2023 film Spooked, but a bigger part of his story involves community and human service. For example, Mr. Hoffman currently works for a very large nonprofit that exists with the mission to release children from poverty in Jesus' name, working in 28 countries to provide resources through local churches to alleviate the strain, pressures, and burden that poverty creates. Mr. Hoffman has worked in Atlanta with Point of Light, a nonprofit dedicated to serving and helping people in the community who struggle with many kinds of problems. In 2011, Mr. Hoffman and his wife started the Brighten Their World nonprofit after their first adopted son, Brighton, died in an orphanage in Ethiopia before they could bring him home. Out of this tragedy, Mr. Hoffman and his wife dedicated themselves to supplying food and other supplies to several orphanages in Ethiopia. Their efforts included building a school that has grown to more than 900 students. Students at the school are provided with an excellent education, clean drinking water, 2 meals a day, and uniforms. Mr. Hoffman is a champion for individual rights and how they can affect students in schools, and speaks regularly in public forums to address areas of concern that impact not only his own children, but many others. Mr. Hoffman currently resides with his family in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and we are pleased that he is joining us today. Mr. Tim Hoffman. Our next inductee is a member of the GHS class of 1992, Mr. Tony Reams. Many locally have become well acquainted with Mr. Reams as he served as the director of the horror ghost movie Spooked, shooting and setting the film in Greenville, as well as holding premieres of it at Teal College and at the Reynolds Drive-In last year. After graduating from the University of Pittsburgh, Mr. Reams moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where he first worked for an information technology firm prior to starting Media First, a digital media company that created multiple patents and copyrights on the way to growing a workforce of over 100 employees. In 2002, he accepted a job as a senior systems engineer with Tiber Creek, a government contractor that supports the U.S. Army, Army Reserves, National Guard, and Homeland Security, a role he continues in today. On the film side, his work has included filming commercials and directing music videos for Arrested Development, A Tribe Called Quest, Red Man, and others. His best known film locally is Spooked, which stars Academy Award nominee Eric Roberts, but other projects including Lethalogica and Playtime's Over. These productions and others have earned awards at film festivals in London, Spain, Mexico City, and Hollywood, amongst other locations. Mr. Reams currently resides with his wife and 3 children in Powder Springs, Georgia. Mr. Tony Reams. The next member of this class of inductees is Ms. Pat Larino Willis. After graduating from Greenville in 1966, Ms. Willis had a career spanning nearly half a century in education in the corporate and nonprofit sectors. While working for Bell South Corporation, Ms. Willis was appointed Executive Director of the Bell South Foundation, which focused on the improvement of public education in the Southeast United States as well as in Latin America. From 1986 to 2002, she was the president of the foundation and led a team that granted more than $50 million over 14 years. The foundation partnered with Bell South to wire hundreds of schools for the internet and train school administrators and teachers to use the technology. Her efforts also included working with the Citywide League of Neighborhoods, where she led the effort to see banks and savings and loans lend more for the purchase and rehabilitation of homes in downtown Atlanta. The Children's Museum of Atlanta, the Atlanta Women's Foundation, the Council of Independent Colleges, and more. As Executive Director of Voices for Georgia's Children, she created Georgia Pre-K Week, during which the governor, state executives, and all 236 state legislators visited a state-sponsored pre-K program to read to the children, and in the process, bringing more attention to the critical function early education programs play in the lives of students and families. Ms. Pat Larino Willis. Our final inductee is Mr. Rod Wilt. For roughly the past 4 years, Mr. Wilt has been the executive director of Penn Northwest Development Corporation, the county's lead economic development agency. But to be sure, his contributions go much further back. A 1982 graduate of Greenville High School, Mr. Willett was a standout member of the Trojan wrestling team before moving on to Teal College, where his work in the classroom and on the mat had him named an NCAA Division III Wrestling All-American and Academic All-American in 1986. Mr. Willett was named the President's Athletic Conference Most Valuable Wrestler, won the NCAA region title, and was eventually inducted into the Teal College Athletic Hall of Fame in 1996. After Teal, he entered the business world, working for top Mercer County organizations including Hudson Real Estate Group, Winter International, as well as serving as acting president of the First National Bank of Mercer County. In 1996, Mr. Willett was elected to represent the 17th District in the PA House of Representatives, following in the political footsteps of his father and grandfather, serving until the year 2006. After leaving politics, Mr. Willett served as the state director of the Keystone Energy Forum. More recently, he returned to his hometown, helping to grow the county economy through Penn Northwest and also acquiring local landmark businesses, including the Majestic Bar and Grill, Pine Hill Golf Course, and what is now Core Power. Mr. Willett currently serves as the president of the Teal College Board of Trustees. Mr. Rod Wilt. This time, GHS senior class officers, starting with President Noah Cano, Vice President Nick Soldrich, Secretary Jalen Lewis, Treasurer Bella Gailey, and Historian Carrie Wright, will start to pose a few questions to our panel of inductees. Prior to starting the Q&A, I would like the officers to present a gift to each of our inductees on behalf of the GHS Student Council. We hope you will wear what's contained in the gift with pride as early as maybe this evening's game. If you need a ticket to tonight's game, I think they might have a few extra tickets in their gift, so if you need an extra ticket, hit one of them up. I want to thank everyone in attendance for your respectful attention to the group as they respond, and I'm going to invite Noah to come up and pose the first question.
Our first question is, while you were a student at GHS, what street did you grow up on? Mr. Bray, would you be able to provide the first response?
So I grew up on 138 Hamburg Road, 2 miles away from school. Earlier, before that, I grew up in Georgia, Arizona, and I was born in Minnesota.
Mr. Hoffman?
I laid my head down at 214 Bentley Avenue, but 81 Chambers. 81 Chambers is probably where I grew up the most. It's funny how addresses stick out. Spent time at 12 Vance, 16 Vance, 47 Sherrard, but 81 Chambers was probably where most of my life took place.
Yeah, I too grew up at 81 Chambers. It was where Mom was, so we spent most of our time in the basement. Yeah, but pretty much all over Greenville. I wouldn't say that like any one spot. Eastside Dairy, we spent a lot of time down Eastside Dairy too. That was probably our main meeting spot anyways.
Well, before moving to 388 South Main Street, which is the corner of First Avenue and South Main, which is where I'm spending time while I'm in Greenville with my 100-year-old father. But we lived on Leach Road out near the golf course, which was my grandmother's farm at the time. And I spent a lot of time in the woods.
Yeah, we were neighbors, so I grew up in the house I now live in, which is very strange and difficult for me to wrap my head around sometimes, that that's 262 Leach Road, but when I was there, it was RD1 Greenville. It wasn't even a street name or a street number, but yeah, our farm was acquired mostly from the Reno family.
Thank you.
I hope the rest of the questions are that easy.
All right, Mr. Hoffman, would you be able to start us off by answering the second question of the day? What are some of your best memories of your time at GHS?
That's a great question for me to start with, since I didn't graduate from DHS. But I was here for 2 weeks as a freshman. I think the memories from Greenville, all of school on, are just the people that was around, the teachers that influenced me, my friends. When I moved, we didn't have email and FaceTime and all that stuff, so we stayed in touch by writing letters, and receiving all that back from Greenville, and just spending my summers here. Football games, track meets, all the sporting events, but really it was the people and the teachers.
Anyone?
Some of my most favorite memories of being here at Greenville High School was playing soccer. So I was in all-four soccer, and I ran track and field under Mr. Fred Kaiser here and Mr. Hayes. Pole vaulting coach, Mr. Kelly Jones. Those were some of my favorite memories. Just enjoying time with friends, and yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of memories. I would probably say, even though it's weird because I wasn't very good at sports, I would say football, just because there was just sort of this, they always say like teamwork and everything, and that's true. It's sort of, you have this group of people that you're around so much more that you sort of grow up with, and we all came up together. Like, I've known Tim since preschool, and so we all came up together. So it was all these things that we would get to do, and we were pretty good in football in the class of '92. Not probably as good as some of the other years, but we got like a lot of free food, and we got to go to parties and stuff afterwards. And I was first through the run-through a couple times, and I was captain of the homecoming team because I was the worst player, so like let him do that homecoming king captain thing, so I got to do that. So that was probably a pretty good time. Natalie Miller was homecoming queen, class of '92. Natalie Serrano.
I didn't come to Greenville High School till I was a junior. I had been at St. Michael's up through the 10th grade. St. Michael's announced it was closing in 2 years, so I came over here as a junior. I was just frankly pleasantly surprised at how welcomed I was by all the students and how quickly I could become involved. I think some of my favorite memories were hanging out in the library after school with my friend Vicki, talking to Mr. Fagley, sometimes Bill McInturf, just for hours on end. I had Mr. Moranis for chemistry, and he was very disappointed that the girls in the chemistry class didn't know what the formula for salt was and didn't know what the impact of baking powder was. So he went to the home ec teacher and told her she just had to create a home ec course for academic girls. So we all took home ec and we had fun, so it was a great time. The one other memory is about this stage. When we had our graduation, there were 7 of us that were speaking about our future, comparing it to a space takeoff. And when I got up to speak, I had then made open a space for the classmate behind me, whose uncle was trying to take his picture. And it wasn't a phone in those days, it was a big camera with a big light bulb that went off right in my eyes, and I totally forgot what I was supposed to say. So thank goodness I had Miss Mowry waiting in the wings to give me a cue, but those are some of my memories.
Oh, that's great. Some of my memories really I'll get to the best one at the end, but I enjoyed the study hall. We'd go to the library, and back then we had those newspapers on those sticks, and so every day I would read the Record Argus, Sharon Herald, Meadville Tribune, and Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and I developed a love for media and following the sports and the politics and everything in the day that really gave me a view of the world outside of our little bubble here in Greenville. I was fortunate enough to be elected junior class president, and that made us in charge of the prom. The junior class always kind of owned the prom, but as the fundraiser, we ran the concession stand for the home football games. So we had 5 nights a year basically to make all of our money, and we were responsible for ordering all the products, setting the pricing, and figuring out the profit and what we were going to earn. And we had the most wonderful advisor, Miss Sanderson at the time, Lori Sanderson, and she really did a great job with our class. But the highlight of my time at Greenville, any wrestlers in the crowd? A few of you? Okay, so we went rolling into Reynolds High School, and we got there early, and we got a workout in. Back then, our coach wanted us to get there and get familiar with the gym, and place started to fill up. Police and fire came, closed the doors, no more people in, 2 good teams going at it. And our coach at the time, Mr. Cooper, decided that he was going to play a head game and we weren't going to come out of the locker room. So the noise out there is building, and Reynolds is lined up for the introduction, and no Greenville team. So finally we heard this knock on the door. It's the official. You guys got to come out. You got to come out. Coach says, "Wait, we'll be right out." We sat for another few minutes and knock on the door again. "Coach, get your guys out. You're going to forfeit the match." We walked out there. We won 28-27. We had that crowd on its heels. We beat Reynolds for the first time in decades, and it was a time of my life. I'll never forget it.
Thank you very much.
Our next question is, while at GHS, who made a positive impact on you, and how did it influence your future? Mr. Reeves, would you be able to share first?
That's you, Tony. Well, there was a lot. I will say the one thing that I had going for me was, I don't know when it started, but we had a journalism class, and Mrs. Kohler was our journalism teacher, and she sort of shepherded the lost sheep, and we were sort of outcasts at the time, our whole group. So there was Ty, myself, there were a bunch of us who didn't really know what to do with our lives or anything. But Mrs. Kohler took us in, taught us how to do the school newspaper, taught us how to work the stuff, work the computer lab, which was brand new. Computers were brand new in schools at the time. That wasn't like a thing that people had. And it was just this period of where I was like, oh, I was a senior, and it dawned on me, oh, you can learn things at school. Like, there's more to it than just going and being talked to. And it was the first time where we got together and everyone I felt like I had purpose, and it was just so enlightening and I wasn't a great writer, I'm not a great speaker, but it was the first time where I felt seen and heard to the point where I was like, oh, I do have some ideas that kind of work. And she was just really good at fostering, creativity in a way that sure, I had a lot of great teachers. I was the problem. I don't want to make it seem like Greenville didn't have great teachers. There were a lot of great teachers. I just wasn't in a great headspace for learning at the point, but that was the first time where it really opened up and I was like, oh, this is on me. I need to be more proactive in education myself. And so it was just the best time of finding that identity of who I was, because up to that point I was really lost. So that was really a good experience.
I don't know that there was any one person. I will say that my friends and the students had an enormous impact, I think, on challenging me to look towards higher education more than I had before. I was inspired by their commitment, by their approach to the process, and so I think as a result, I went to a college I wouldn't have gone to otherwise. It was a small college. It was wonderful for me, Marietta College in Southeast Ohio. But I I do think the students themselves had a big impact on me, especially being new as a junior. But among teachers, and I've mentioned a couple already, but I want to mention Frank Stratiff. I love to tell people throughout my life that my best English teacher ever was a football coach. And, but just being with him and with his classes, and in our final exam, junior year, we had to analyze a poem called Warning to Children. And I'm not gonna give it to you now, except to say that it really was about recognizing that there are things that go on that are hard. You tackle them, you look to the next day, you build your confidence to do it again, and it ends up saying, and then you find yourself with the package still untied upon your lap, and you open it up because something else new will be coming along. So, Warning to Children. And I stayed in touch with him throughout my life. He died last year. It was a real loss, but he made a big impact.
Yeah, he is a gentleman. I love Frank. I think the first time I was able to connect things that I was interested in to a teacher was my junior high wrestling coach, Hud McClymans, who was the principal at West Side School. And I was out in the Sugar Grove Township, and maybe this happened to you too, but we got pushed around to Hempfield and East and even up to West Side. It's like they didn't know where to put. Oh, that's right, you were at St. Mike's, I'm sorry. So they didn't know where to put us country kids from Kennard and Sugar Grove. I see Mr. Kaiser sitting over here, and he's the first person that really ever introduced me to the mental side of athletics and sports and this visualization stuff that he was into as a basketball coach and helping kids make free throws. And I've been really, my entire life, very interested in the mental side of performing at a high level athletically. I mentioned Miss Sanderson, who, she was just a really, really cool lady who really recognized us as individuals, and I don't think there was more than maybe a 10-year age gap between her as a teacher and us as students, maybe a little bit more, but not much. And then finally, Paul Miller, who taught English here, he really developed in me a love for the literature, and particularly some of the classic plays and some of the classic books. And I ended up being an English major in college, and soon after, about 3 years after I left Greenville, I met my wife at Teal in Shakespeare class. So I got to thank Paul Miller kind of for that.
It's fun hearing that you guys had Miss Sanderson and Mr. Kohler and all the teachers you had. I had the same teachers too, including Mr. Karpinski and Mr. Tokar in my grades or years here at Greenville. I want to put a big shout out to Mr. Hayes. He really was a fabulous coach for the track and field, and taking you all under the teacher's wings to learn and fly into the next steps of your lives and careers is one step. Mr. Hayes, he took us bird dogs and really took us beyond that coach-student relationship and helped nurture us even just as a kind hearted soul he is. So really fun times during my high school career. But yeah, I think that's good.
I took it back a little bit since I didn't attend high school here, so I was thinking of core memories of teachers. Mrs. Orr taught me to hula hoop in kindergarten. It's big, right? Mr. Davis, I love Mr. Davis for leaning into just being unique and allowing me to be who I was. He celebrated that, which was kind of cool. But Mr. Stearns in the 3rd grade, he required poetry and poetry reciting, and I can still think I can get nervous thinking about having to go to class and stand in front and recite the poems. And he didn't turn me into an amazing orator, but what he did do was give me a love for words, the written word, and think that's something I took away, and I love that for, I've tried to give it to my own kids, and the importance of words and the value of words. So I really appreciate that from him.
Over the course of your life and your career, what makes you most proud?
Years, and she recently retired from NPR and is doing stories on the road. But she was my age, and she said that when she went to Duke, there weren't any women professors, very few women administrators, and so her mentors were her friends who had more courage than she had. And that really got to me about my responsibility to mentor other women and younger women in particular. So, you know, there's young women that stay in touch with me that are, I mean, one of them is the head of public housing in Chicago. Some of them are heads of foundations. You know, it's just, that's what makes me the most proud, is what I can see them doing today.
I forgot to mention in the previous question, Ted Young, who was a music director here forever, and just performing on this stage, anything he was involved in, I wanted to be involved in, so I've always loved, not a great singer, but I always enjoyed being involved in his choirs and choruses, and I'll never forget Ted, he was great. But I don't want this to sound too sugary, I don't know what the word is, but the thing that I'm most proud of in my life, now 60 years old, is where I grew up in this community. It still makes me very excited to be alive, and I really am a product of this community. Everything that I've wanted to accomplish in my life, I've been able to do pretty much right here in Greenville. And so I'm most impressed and most proud of the resiliency of Greenville. It maybe today might not be what it once was, but it's certainly not what it's going to be and what it could be. And so what I'm most proud of is through various points in my life, whether it's a banker or a state legislator or as an economic developer or a business owner, is to be willing to enable to invest in this community, to see the good in it, to realize that I'm a reflection of all of you and your parents and grandparents. You know, I was raised in a family where public service was what we did, and I can only tell you that if I had to be anywhere, and I've been other places, but I moved back from Jensen Beach, Florida, to spend my years, whatever I have remaining on my countdown clock, right here in Greenville, because I believe in this community, I believe in its people, I believe in its young people, I believe in every single one of you and every one of these chairs out here, that you can be whoever you want to be right here in this town. And I stayed here and got my college degree. I went and saw how other things worked, and I brought all those experiences right back here to Greenville, and I think that's what I'm most proud of, that I have this wonderful town that I call home, and making it better is what keeps me up at night, what gets me out of bed every morning. So.
And we're all better off for you.
Yeah, I don't know what to say after that. I think the one thing that I'm probably most proud of is pretty personal, is I just never thought that I would grow up. just didn't think that I would ever be somewhere here like this. But having kids, like it's gonna sound weird for the younger generation, but having kids, you can sort of, there's two things that I learned, because I always thought to be a good parent meant that you teach them to do all the right things, and that would not be me, because most of my life was like, well, I did that terrible, and I would just reiterate and figure it out and do it again until I did it somewhat mediocre. But the thing that I've learned with my kids that I'm most proud of is that I was able to show them not just how to be good humans, but also teach them, like, here's what not to do. Here's all the things that I did that just don't work, or these are things you're not great at this, so maybe let's just pivot and just learn from your mistakes and keep going. And I'm just really proud that that worked. Like, it was sort of an experiment. You guys will learn that when you get older and have kids, and it's like, it's an experiment. Like, how do you raise these other humans to be good humans? And it's hard, it's real hard work. But I would not have been able to do that, honest to God, without growing up here in Greenville, because I see we're in a bigger area down there in Georgia, and although it's a lot bigger and broader, and there's technology now that we didn't have then, there was just something about the era that we grew up in. And you guys will hear a lot about Gen X, or the older generations, the boomers and all that, but there really is something different about the generation before us and our generation that you can't replicate now. But it is something that you can instill in younger generations, and it boils down to a sense of community, sense of hard work, finding your purpose, whatever that is, figuring that out and just going for it, because it doesn't have to be, like, my kids are at this phase where it's like they know teachers and they know nurses and doctors, so they think that's the only profession that you could ever do. And so once you sort of unlock in your mind, like, I can do anything I want, I can figure out, someone's gonna pay me to do this, and I like doing that, I'm gonna go after that. And instilling that in kids, it's just so valuable to see, and I got most of that here in Greenville. Like, that's where I learned all of this, to be creative, try new things, fail quickly, move on, get bigger, get better. I mean, that's what we did here at GHS, and it was just sort of like, that's probably what I'm most proud of that experience.
It's a tough question, and you think about, like, quickly, what are you most proud of? Do I say something that Mr. Tokar said when he was introducing us? What do I think of? I was proud of the fact that I had one of the largest paper routes in Greenville when I was a kid, right? 76 papers, I delivered them. 76 papers, 6 days a week. Early morning on one of those days, I can't remember which day. A lot of folded papers, a lot of ink. I mean, you think through your whole life, I mean, Tony stole the thunder with the kids, I was really proud, that was good. I got a job at Compassion International 11 years ago, and the title they gave us was Child Advocate. I get emotional about this kind of stuff. Child Advocate. And that's probably what I'm most proud of. Fighting for kids. Standing up for kids. Being a voice when they can't be a voice. Standing on a stage close to crying about it. That's the kind of stuff that I've done. I would have never guessed I was going to go that route. Like, if you'd asked me 15, 20 years ago, there'd have been no way. No kids in my life. Look at me. Look at me. Okay, and we'll address that. Doing what you do and staying true to who you are is another thing I'm proud of. Stay true to who you are. Find the drummer that you walk to. Find the beat and stay with it. And I'm proud of that. So, but mostly proud about these three. And wearing that Child Advocate title, like, proudly and loudly, and fighting for kids, and for folks like you guys, kids like you guys who are, on the cusp of whatever you're made for, whatever you're going to do. I mean, there are people who will fight for you. I'm proud of having that title. I'm proud of being in that space and doing that work in that space.
There's a lot of things that I feel proud of, but I think I can contribute that mostly to the love that I have for people and the service that I want to provide. I went to school for engineering, engineering, we do this ring of both, that we need to do the best of our abilities to serve people, serve humanity, serve a civilization, and that's really been a drive, I think, since I was young, going to First Presbyterian Church here on Main Street. Growing up in the church, my faith in Jesus has been a huge contributor to that core value in my heart. And I love that Greenville High School's one of their core values is excellence. I work for an organization now that love, excellence, and integrity are three of the core values. Serving people has been at the core of what I've been doing after high school, and that's something that I'll continue to do throughout the rest of my life. And that's really something that I'm very proud of. I'm proud of my family. Tony's comment on the kids, that's really strikes, and Tim, that strikes a soft spot in my heart. Ever since I've started having kids, I watch any kind of emotional movie and I start bawling. Unfortunately, my kids have inherited my stubbornness. I grew up very stubborn, and my kids are very stubborn. But they make me very proud. And my wife Claire, who I met while serving in the Peace Corps, again, very very proud to be married to her. So I think as you expand and grow outside of your high school career, look to those core values that you're being raised up in currently. Love, excellence, integrity, pride for Greenville. These are things that you can take with you into college and beyond in your career.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your very respectful attention. Can we give the class of Distinguished Hall of Fame inductees another round of applause, please?